Hi, my name is NUNZIATA, and I'm a New York City-based director and creator of theater, television, and film, and I'm also a proud FENIX Global Artist Ambassador. Today, I am thrilled to be speaking with a friend of mine, the award-winning director, creator, choreographer, businessman, inventor. He does it all. His name, Jeff Whiting. Here is my interview with the amazing Jeff. Well, hello, my dear friend Jeff. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Well, I was just talking to pre-interview. I cannot believe we've known one another for almost 15 years.
Has it been 15? Wow. So we're
Jeff,
only 17 years old now, I guess.
well, that's delusional, but yes, absolutely. But listen, Jeff, before we get into your amazing career, but not only your amazing career, but what you're doing for society and humanity, I want to just say on a personal note that you are one of the first people, if not the first person I met after graduating college, who really believed in my love of wanting to be a director and a creator. And you saw it from the beginning. And frankly, I don't know if I'd be doing it without your initial gut belief, because I look up to you so much. So I just want to publicly thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I remember, I'll never forget when we met. I saw what a creative spirit you are, and I'm so thrilled to see all the things you've done since then.
Well, back to you, my friend. You have worked on Broadway. You've worked across the country, around the world. I want to first begin with your Broadway career as a director and choreographer. Um, Before becoming a director and choreographer, you had an amazing career as a performer. But while you were performing, Jeff, I want to know first and foremost, did you always know you wanted to be a director and a choreographer, even when you were performing? And then how did you make that leap from performer to director choreographer to then, your association with Broadway, but even more specifically with the Tony Award winner, Susan Stroman?
Mhm. Yeah, I think I didn't always know I wanted to be a director. My mom tells the story when I was 10. Everybody in my family they're into sports. And my mom was watching me on the soccer field, age 10, bored out of my mind. And she said, there might be something different for Jeff in this world. And so she found an audition for the local theater for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and took me to that audition. And I got cast, of course, as Dopey in that production. And at age 10, I got bit by the theater bug and just knew that that was what I wanted to do. And I started working with the children's theater program there, the theater where I was working. And they had a summer program. So I knew I wanted to be an actor. And I think I was maybe 12, 2 years later, working with a wonderful director named Zan Johnson. And he was directing me in a play called Home Free, Lanford Wilson's Home Free. And it's kind of a challenging piece. It's a story of a brother and sister. And the opening monologue is like 2 pages of this kid, locked at home and he's got lots of issues going on. He's got imaginary friends. And I was just having trouble as an actor sort of breaking through how to connect with that role. And he was giving me a list of, okay, as you go through, your left knee is itching and your right leg is doing this. And he gave me a list of like 20 things to do. And I was like, Zan, I can't even remember all those things. And he said, go, do it now. And I was like, ah, and I did this monologue and made this breakthrough. And I went, oh, I want to do it. He just figured out how to get me, the actor, to break through. That's when I knew I wanted to be a director. So from that time, of course, I continued acting, but I always kept my eye on the director and just went, okay, I see when I direct, I'm going to do that or I won't do that. And so, yeah, as time went on, of course, I did continue acting, but I always knew that I would then, finally step to the other side of the table.
That's amazing, Jeff, and I can relate as well. And you're one of those people that I've always had my eye on. And when we did meet, you were working with the incredible, legendary Susan Stroman, I believe, as her associate in on the Broadway production of Young Frankenstein. And even then, though, you were also in the development of what would become, the legendary production of Scottsboro Boys, amongst other productions. Explain to me a little bit about your association with the amazing Susan Stroman and how that all came about.
Yeah, well, man, I became the luckiest guy on the planet. I had started, directing. I'd sort of taken a foot out of performing, and somebody gave me a good piece of advice, years ago. It just said, if you ever want to do something, just let people know that that's what you want to do. Just, find directors and just say, I want to be a director. I'd love to learn from you. So I had been doing that to many people, and I was hired to work on the national tour of Hairspray. I was the associate director of that tour, and the same producers did the national tour, and I was asked to work on that production, and that director, I just said, look, if you're ever looking for an assistant, I would love to help you out. And New Year's Eve, I guess it's now 12 years ago, New Year's Eve, I got an email from Susan Stroman's office, and she said, hi, I just had dinner with Nigel West, who's the director of the producers who I had assisted. I'm looking for a new assistant for a new show called Young Frankenstein that's coming to Broadway. Would you be willing to come and meet in my office and just discuss this possibility? So it took a whole day to write the perfectly crafted yes. And okay, so I met with her several times, and she offered me the chance to be the assistant choreographer of Young Frankenstein. And that was a life-changing moment. And since that time, I've continued working with her on every production really since then. I did Young Frankenstein with her there. Then I worked on a show called Happiness at the Lincoln Center. From there, we went on to work on Big Fish, Bullets Over Broadway, Scottsboro Boys, which you mentioned before, which was really a life-changing experience. Such a beautiful production, but also historically a really fascinating period of time. So I've been so lucky to be at her side, creating giant, big new Broadway shows.
Well, and then you, my friend, have created and directed giant things yourself, such as the Mr. James Taylor concert at Carnegie Hall. But then not only that, Jeff, and I remember in the inkling stages of the incubated stages of this idea you had for your Sage Right software. You are the creator and founder of it, but it not only was a game changer within the theater world, it was a game changer in the world of sports, of event planning, of design. I want you to go into a little bit of the Stage Right software, how it came about, and again, just another example that you are not just a creator of theater, you are a creator, period.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I sort of, I guess I always just find problems and I want to find the solution for it. And, one of the problems that we're faced with in the theater is just tracking all the many moving pieces of every show, the moving actors, the scenery, the props. And the idea initially came to me when I was directing a show for Disney in Hong Kong. And, we had done the show previously somewhere else, and we were basically resetting it, the cast in Hong Kong. And it was a multicultural cast, and I would say something in English, and then we'd have a translator would translate it into Mandarin and then Tagalog. And it took so long to just explain, move stage left. And I thought, what if I just could project on the wall arrows where everybody goes? And if I had a little icon of everybody. And so that was where the initial idea came. And I thought, oh, there should be some software that does that. And I kept looking just for software that existed that did it, because it wasn't really a complicated idea, just move the bodies around the stage. So that was sort of the birth of the idea. And so and not finding it, I said, well, somebody should do this. It might as well be me. So around that time, a friend of mine popped up on LinkedIn, and I discovered a software developer. So I just reached out to him and I said, I have this idea. How do I do it? So we went through a couple-year process of, I knew exactly what I wanted it to be. And I found some wonderful developers who, made it initially into an iPad app now 8 years ago. And now since then, it's been over 80 Broadway shows, 50,000 users worldwide. So it's been really wonderful to see how it's really been adopted by the industry as a whole.
But my friend, you weren't done there quite yet. You are also the founding artistic director of the Open Jar Institute, a premier music theater training program connecting young artists with legendary performers on Broadway, giving him that first-hand experience. I feel like, Jeff, when you created that, I just imagine you, in knowing how open and beautiful your heart is, you were thinking about little Jeff and what he would want in an ideal program, and you created that with Open Jar Institute. And then, so I want you to talk a little bit about that, as well as you then parlayed that into what is now the premier rehearsal space in Manhattan. 50,000 square feet of beautiful state-of-the-art design, but not only state-of-the-art design, my friend, and someone who has, been, I've directed every single production I've directed. I've always gone to, but also during the pandemic, you were the only studio open because
Yeah.
you were doing it right. So if you don't mind parlaying from the Open Jar Institute, that idea,
Sure.
Open Jar Studios, and then how you were able to attack this horrific pandemic with grace and savvy.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Institute really came about as a result of just me, a young actor, having graduated school and just stumbling and making lots of mistakes. And I just said, oh, I wish that there was something that could have prepared me better for New York. Because I had a great training. I had good acting training, good vocal training, good dance training. But, you step off the plane in New York and there's just so many things that you just I wasn't prepared for. And so I wanted to create a program where young people could prepare themselves a little bit better. So I really just connected students who have the desire to eventually work on the Broadway stage, and then Broadway artists. As I began working on Broadway, there are so many wonderful actors, performers, teaching artists who enjoy teaching. So I've just really connected them, and we do several things: a summer program where we bring in high school students for the summer and also college students for the summer. We do a college residency program. So really year round, we're connecting students, preparing the next generation. It's been really wonderful. And as it's grown, yeah, I ended up just needing more space. I sort of got tired of just renting space and not getting the space I wanted. So I said, well, what if I found my own space? And I got some wonderful real estate brokers who started walking me around, and they brought me to this building on 48th and Broadway that had been sitting empty for 5 years. And it, as luck would have it, has beautiful open column-free space. And I walked in, and of course I was like, well, this is amazing, but I couldn't afford that. And I started looking elsewhere. And the more I thought about it, I said, well, I don't need this much space, but I know people who do. So I put together an investment team, and we got 2 floors in this building, and we created the Open Jar Studios. And it's been thrilling to see so many people, utilizing the space. It is the largest space in New York City because randomly this building just was built with no columns. So it gives you, Broadway shows really ample space to be able to properly rehearse with the set before they move into the Broadway theater. And yeah, so I really just designed the space that I had always been hoping for. I wanted it to be almost like a blank slate for artists to come in and create the art. So you don't see a lot of artwork. It's just like, a blank page, as Sondheim would say. So that was sort of the idea behind the design of the studios. And we really wanted to just be a creative home for artistic individuals. And then, yeah, as you mentioned, Will, like a year ago, when the pandemic hit, we were almost not even a year old. We had just opened. And, here it's announced that we're going to shut down. And so I was literally walking around the studios, turning off the air conditioning, turning off the lights, not knowing when, if ever, we would come back. And I got a phone call as I was in Studio 11J from a friend of mine who works in the mayor's office. And he said, we keep hearing, Broadway wants to help, but nobody's really organizing it. Could you organize just a phone call with the governor's office, and we'll start figuring out how the Broadway community could help? So I said, sure. And so I ended up sort of in a tornado of phone calls and emails. And I ended up on a phone call with the department that was charged by the governor to create hospital gowns because there was such a shortage of PPE. And I randomly got on this phone call, and it was me, and there were 4 other legit factories who make clothing and apparel, and me representing Broadway. And she said on the phone call, we need to make 10 million hospital gowns as soon as possible. Can you do it? And so all these factories said, yep, we can make this many a week. And I had already just figured out all these Broadway stitchers who normally are making Broadway clothes. I had over 700 of them said they would do it. And I said, well, I have a big space. We can turn Open Jar Studios into a PPE factory. So on the spot, I sort of pitched this idea and I said, well, I've got 700 people who can sew and I've got a big space. So I said, we'll do it. And so I never had done that before, but I just figured it out. And I had an amazing team of stitchers, people who actually know what they're doing. So we jumped right in a year ago this time, and we, over in the first 59 days of the pandemic, we made over 51,000 hospital gowns that went directly to New York City hospitals.
Oh my God, Jeff. And that is how the formation of the Broadway Relief Project was born. If there's anyone that has something come to them and then just say yes and then figure out the how, it's you. Really. I mean,
yeah.
It's what you do as a creator, a director, a choreographer, but it's also like what you do as like a human. Jeff, I mean, you not only provided over 50,000 hospital gowns for New York City public hospitals and, you know, for PPEs around the city, it was around the country and the world these things were shipped. But also, Jeff, you were providing jobs for out of work industry people. And, amongst, the TED Talk that you gave with the open jar thinking, it's actually who you are. You look at open space and you live in possibility. And you're amazing. And I know your heart because I remember when I first met you, it was like almost like a too good to be true. It's like, who's this dude from like Utah who just like loves giving beautiful advice and guidance and just creating something out of nothing. And you look at what you've done, Jeff, again, not only for yourself, right, as a professional, but for the world.
Thank you.
It's simply astonishing. And now through FENIX, the social media platform that's going to be connecting people around the world, especially the West and the East. If there's anyone that really understands what that intricate collaboration looks like, it's you, because you've worked in the East. And also, you know what it is to be on the ground floor working on a startup that, you're very clear about the concept and the idea and the execution. And I'm just like so honored and thrilled, like, you're coming on board.
Yeah. Oh, I'm honored to be invited. And I think you're right. Really anything worth doing just starts as an idea. And you never know exactly how you're going to do it. Even though you might think you do, everything I've ever gone into, even the ones that I have a pretty clear idea about, I go, oh, here's how we're going to do it. And you get into it and you have some obstacle, but there's always some solution. And if you're open to it, and if you listen to people who know what they're doing, it's going to be better than you even imagine. And so I think that's probably the biggest joy of collaborating is the ability to open, and everybody's idea can contribute and make it something better than it was ever intended to be.
Well, it is you, my friend, where I learned the phrase best idea wins. I now claim it as my own, but that is trademark, ladies and gentlemen, publicly. That is Mr. Jeff Whiting who said that. And Jeff, I could speak to you forever. I get like a little emotional thinking about like young Will coming to like so scared to want to really pursue what I wanted. And, again, I want to thank you, but also the millions of people that you've affected in a positive way through everything you've created thus far, whether it's the joy you've brought to people on the stage, whether it's the joy you've brought to companies that you've helmed, whether it's the Open Jar Institute, my dog in the background even says hi. I'm so grateful for your time, Jeff, and you're just simply the best. Thank you.
That's my pleasure. Thank you.
In the digital age, artists and bands struggle to make a living. In fact, only a small number of artists can live off their craft. For the 98% of artists that don't have the luxury of being signed to a label, it's tough. But artists deserve to live off their art. Wherever you are around the world, appreciation of music does not change. FENIX brings bands and their fans together, whilst allowing bands to properly monetize their passion. The FENIX app will directly connect bands and fans with no need for middlemen. We're utilizing the blockchain to give the power back to the artist once and for all. Join FENIX, join the change.